Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about a few things that are broken within patch 1.8.83, as well as I'm going to talk about what the developers have recently said. Then to finish up the video, we're going to talk about a few things that the developers are planning on fixing on the next patch. So with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, and let's go ahead and dive right into this. First and foremost, I completely understand that this is a beta patch, but we do have to talk about a few bugs that have popped up recently that is completely ruining the game. The only reason why I am talking about this is so that there might be a potential fix for this in the future, so that we do not see this in the final patch. With that being said, let's talk about the recent bug in patch 1.8.83 that's currently causing some havoc. If you take a look on the screen here, it says, quote, beta, new bug, invisible ships, enemy and friendly ships, end quote. And as you can tell on the screen, in the distance, you can definitely tell there's some funky stuff going on here that's not supposed to happen. If you take a closer look at these next two screenshots, you're going to see quite a few details here, including the invisibility, but the items inside the ship as well. Personally, I've yet to come across this bug, but honestly, it's quite similar to the invisible ship glitch that you guys all know and love. The only difference here is that it appears to have transitioned over to friendly and enemies in general. Now, if this makes its way to the final patch, that will be quite interesting because you guys on Xbox are going to experience this same exact issue. Also, a bit of a side note here, if you're wondering whether or not the duplication ship glitch works, it absolutely does. Not only that, but you can also bring the effects from the Starborn ship over to the Frontier or pretty much any ship that you're duplicating. For example, when you use the Starborn ship and you decide to use the boost, you will see that invisibility, right? Well, you can use that same invisibility onto any ship, and I will show you that at the end of the video if you're interested. Moving on, we have a quest that is still bugged after the latest beta patch. If you take a look on the screen here, it says, quote, Ryujin David Barron quest is still bugged. Dash Steam beta patch. Just logged in after a week of not playing due to this bug, in the hopes that it would be fixed as stated in the patch notes, and it's still bugged. Anyone have any luck on their end? End quote. The interesting thing about this patch is that yes, it has fixed quite a few bugs and quests specifically, but there is a problem with this. Even though you have downloaded the patch, there is a potential chance where the bug is permanently saved on your file. Pretty much in the end, even if you have this patch downloaded, it's not going to resolve that issue at all. You're still going to have the bug. Continuing on with the next bug, you can see right here, it says, quote, Andrea quest still bugged after beta patch. I've stopped playing since encountering the bug with Andrea's quest divided loyalties. With her stuck at the bar in Aquila, I actually tried throwing grenades and stuff like that. So now she's actually a little outside the bar. I decided to wait for a patch to fix it. Since this actually breaks at least 2 quests, I can't progress with no sudden moves either because Andrea is stuck as my companion. Don't know how many other quests are affected. Installed the beta patch and sadly the bug is still there. Andrea is still stuck and busy, and no sudden moves is also stuck because Sarah can't become my companion while Andrea is stuck. Are those required to end the game? I thought that maybe I would try to just finish it as is, but I'm afraid of dumping more time in a broken save, end quote. So this might just be the same exact issue that I was explaining prior. Even though you have downloaded the patch, there is a potential chance where some of these quests might be broken still. So really, no matter what you do, even if you have downloaded the patch, it's not going to fix the problem. But if you happen to have a save prior to the bug, that will resolve the issue. This is sadly the case because when you do have a bug on your save, it's pretty much permanent, and so you're going to have to deal with it until you either come across the Unity or possibly you figure a way to resolve it on your own. There's absolutely nothing that Bethesda can do to resolve this problem, but honestly, you're probably better off starting up a new save if you cannot go to the Unity, and that's just the sad case. So let's go on and talk about the next bug. Right here it says, quote, crashing to desktop randomly after the new beta patch. Seems to be with frame gen on, but it could just be inconsistent. I'll chalk it up with Bethesda and the fact it's a beta patch and likely has some quirks. Anyone else getting this? Game seems to freeze for a moment, then crash to desktop. It's inconsistent and it may actually be related to having the flashlight on, as so So far, it's only crashed when I had the flashlight on in a dark place. Anyone else getting this issue?" End quote. Surprisingly, this is not the only case, because if you head over towards this next post, it pretty much talks about the same exact problem. If you take a look on the top here, it says, quote, "Starfield open beta, PC freezing during gameplay," end quote. Then if you take a look down below, you can see all of the specs from his computer. Well, what is the problem here? Is it your graphics card? Is it your CPU? No, it's actually just the game. Sometimes this stuff can happen. What I would recommend is that you validate all your files to make sure everything is up to date. Not only that, but to also fix some of the issues that you might be experiencing that you're just not aware of. Let's continue on here and chat about the bugs that Bethesda intends to tackle in the next patch. If you're curious as to where I got this information from, it's straight from the Bethesda support site, because if you did not know, they actually talk about a few bugs that they do plan on fixing, which by the way is quite strange, because I would imagine they would do something like this on Twitter. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and talk about it. Recently on the Bethesda support site, they have updated a few questions. For example, this one right here. Quote, "What do I do if enemies don't spawn from ships on land? Question mark. We are aware of an issue that prevents enemies from spawning from ships. This will be resolved in a future update," end quote. This right here, I've seen quite a few in the comments talk about this issue, and it's great to see that it has been resolved and will be fixed in the next patch. The next bug that they do plan on fixing is going to be the ECS constant, which you can see on the screen here. It says, quote, "Why can't I find the ECS constant? We have received reports from players that the ECS constant is missing when trying to complete related missions. In the meantime, try leaving the area of the mission and then returning. If the above does not resolve it, please see what do I do if I have an issue with a mission in Starfield," end quote. And what do you know? Some more good news. This means we should see a fix sometime soon, either in the next patch, or there is the potential chance where they can update the beta patch some more and kind of just let us know what they have fixed additionally. And last but not least, I want to talk about this topic right here, which says, quote, "Planetary effects systems Starfield," end quote. Then if you go towards the first paragraph here, it says, quote, "We are aware of an issue where some airborne status effects icons can become stuck on the watch HUD after visiting an airlock. This is just a visual error on the watch. You can view your current status effects in the status menu. If you'd like to be notified when this article has been updated," end quote, and then you know it has all the other stuff. But if I can be honest here, I feel like this is quite lazy, because they could actually just say, hey, we're going to resolve the issue, instead of, saying, hey, if you're experiencing the problem, just open up the menu, look at your status effects. Why would you need a HUD? Pretty much that's what I'm getting out of this. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Let me know what you think about everything right here, but we're going to continue on and talk about what the developers have recently said in a post. What you're going to be taking a look at here is going to be some of the developers' comments on a Steam review. I know some of you have seen some of this in the past when I have talked about it, but I do want to bring up something specific that was recently said in a review. Now, before I do continue on here and read this, I also want to say that I think some of these developers are either using some sort of template or they're using some sort of chat GBT. It's got to be something like that, right? Well, what they have been doing here is pretty much using the same exact lines for pretty much all of their responses, which if you're one of the fellas out here that left a review and you saw that, hey, a developer commented on your review, you were probably excited. But then sooner or later, you're probably like, oh, this is not original. They have been saying this to pretty much everyone. And that's really the case here. The only difference is because in this reply, the developer had said something quite interesting that I had to make a comment on. If you take a look on the screen here, it says Bethesda_Falco Yamaoka. This is a developer, and then he says, quote, "The combat in Starfield is some of the most advanced in a Bethesda title to this day. It's one of our players' favorite aspects of the game," end quote. I have a question for those that have played Fallout 4, Fallout 76, or possibly even Skyrim. Do you believe this is the most advanced combat in a Bethesda title? I would say no at the start. The only reason why is because if we're specifically talking about the first-person shooter, then it's not that different than Fallout 4 or even Fallout 76. But if we're talking about the space exploration part, or specifically the space combat, then I would say yes, it definitely has advanced. This is something I've yet to see from Bethesda in the past, and I'm sure you guys can agree with that as well. With that being said, the developer goes on to say, quote, "To experience some of the Starfield's better stealth scenarios, we recommend you embark on the Ryujin faction quests. You will think you are playing a totally different game with missions you undertake, especially since your payout is based on how quietly you complete your missions." End quote. The only thing that I have to say about this is that I do not feel like Ryujin was a huge game changer. When it comes down to those quests, it felt more of a fetch quest than it actually felt like, okay, I'm doing something completely different. What I felt was the best faction mission would have to be with the Crimson Fleet. I definitely think they had the most interesting missions, and when it comes down to Ryujin, it was pretty much basic. I remember the first few quests were just fetch quests. You had to go get some coffee, or you had to go to a computer, or you just had to go talk to somebody, right? In my opinion, it was probably one of the most boring faction missions. But let's go on and talk about what else this developer had to say. So Falco Yamaoka continues on to say, quote, "The best way to go about leveling your character is to focus on one page of the perk tree for your current run. That way you will be able to see all the benefits that come from sticking to a theme on each particular run, and those pros and cons of each skill you unlock. You can also always farm points during spaceship combat." End quote. This right here, I'm going to cut off short because I feel like this is some of the worst advice. The only reason why I say this is because when I started off, I wanted to use target locking. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pick that up over there on the ship side. Eventually, I thought, well, what about lockpicking? I definitely want to do that, but I have to raise my skill higher. Well, I would want to mess with that other page. Why would I focus on one page when you're missing out on all these other benefits? Yeah, so I don't know if this developer plays Starfield or if this is just some sort of template or chat GPT thing here. If you were to take a look at most of the negative reviews over on Steam, you're going to see a good portion of the developers have replied to those posts. Now, most of these posts, if not all of them, are pretty much the same exact thing. The only thing that they've done differently is either have cut something out or they've included a new piece of information that, again, might possibly be something that an AI wrote, which really, in the end, is probably the most laziest thing that a developer can do. We all know that Lords of the Ring Gollum, those developers have used an apology recently that was written by an AI, which is completely bonkers. Now, you can see that the developers over there at Bethesda are pretty much doing the same exact thing. Or again, they're possibly using some sort of template that Bethesda had made up. I honestly could not tell you, but I'm only assuming here, right? That's my assumption. Anyways, I would like to know what you guys think about everything that we've talked about in today's video, especially if you have been encountering some more bugs. Other than that, I appreciate all of you that have stopped by again and again and again. I love the support, man. It means a lot to me that you guys do come back. If you'd like to join the Discord, or if you have any comments, comment down below if it has something to do with the video. Other than that, thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you all in the next video.